Hi there. So, recognizing patterns. An interesting thing happened to me yesterday. I've been going to these virtual networking events to meet new people and, see, just start relationships and find out if there's anybody out there who needs a book. And if anybody out there needs a book, let me know. So needs a book in the sense of needs a book written for them because they teach something and they want to get better known. Okay, now that that's over. So yeah, I've been going to these networking meetings. Hi. I've been going to these networking meetings and meeting interesting people. It's cool. Don't go down. Keep in the path. Keep on the same subject. Okay. So I've been, I go to these networking events and then I make plans with the people, some of the people that I meet. We have conversations online just to chat, one-on-one. And we have these conversations online. And for the most part, it's been pretty cool. So, one of these conversations, I think a week ago or something like that, was this guy. And we had an interesting conversation. It wasn't just about business. It just kind of ranged all over. And it just basically showed that both of us really like information and find things interesting, which was cool. And I was like, okay, well, talk to you later. And later on, I don't remember, a few days later or whatever, well, yesterday, he texted me a couple of times, he showed me some videos of people parachuting. I don't know. So yesterday he texted me and he's like, oh, do you have time to chat today? And I was gonna say no because I'm super busy, but I'm making myself get up and go outside and get some sort of exercise because it's gonna kill me how stationary I've been. But it's been hard because my hip and my back have been really bugging me. I think there's something out of alignment in my hip. Anyway, nope, that's not part of the story. Okay, so I was gonna say no, but then I was like, you know what? Maybe he is interested, or someone he knows is interested in writing a book. I can't just say no. So I was like, sure, we're on to whatever. So we get on the phone, and it was a social call. He wanted to just chat. And after exchanging pleasantries, he was like, so you seeing anyone? I was like, no, but I am also not in a place in my life right now where that's a consideration. I have my company that I'm starting, and I'm doing a lot of work on myself, and romance doesn't fit into the picture for me right now. I was like, nothing personal, but I mean, he's a good-looking guy, really good-looking guy, really good-looking guy. Anyway, so what had happened? So just like, oh yeah, of course, because I live in New Jersey. I'm not going to start a romantic relationship. No, I live in New Jersey. You live in Boston. It's like, yeah, okay, cool. And he goes, when was your last relationship? Like a year ago. He wasn't like drill sergeant. He was just making pleasant conversation, or at least that's how I interpreted it. But clearly has interest in me, which is kind of flattering and hasn't been a thing for a while for me. I have not really been interacting with people at that level for a while. A while. Like a long time. A long time. Like years and years. There was my ex, Abram, but we had our relationship was kind of at a different level. Anyway, so, it's like, oh, well, it was about a year ago. He was like, oh, how long was it? Like, and at this point, I'm flattered, and I just don't think about these things the way that I am learning to. I'm like, oh, well, it was 4 years long. And he's like, oh, it's long. I was like, yeah, it's the longest relationship I was in. And he's like, well, why is it the longest relationship you're in? I was like, I think that's mainly down to the choices and people I made. And he's like, oh. And I'm like, that's why I'm working on myself. I was like, what about you? And, because I'm trying to make conversation, but it's not something I would have asked normally at all. But he was like, oh, I've had 2 real relationships that's 6 months long. I'm like, okay, it's interesting. He's like, there's reasons for that. It's like, okay, what are those reasons? And he moved around and whatever. And now it's funny because when I was talking to a friend about this last night, and she's like, yeah, no. But at the time, that's not what I'm thinking, so, oh, yeah, looking at it, yeah, it's, yeah, so he was like, I was like 6 months, 6 months, and I was thinking, okay, well, and he's like, yeah, and then he's like, he's moved around a lot and never really had time, and then he talks about being a biology teacher for many years, and I'm like, well, if he was a biology teacher for many years, he would have had a stable job and stayed somewhere for a number of years, but it seems to me that, he's a single dad, got a 4-year-old, and he seems devoted to him, which is nice, but again, I'm not someone who wants to date someone with children, plus I'm not dating right now, and I'm really not interested. He's attractive, but I'm not interested. So conversation goes on, and we just start talking about people with different opinions, and it's really interesting. He starts talking about, he's it's so clear that he was sort of, I don't know about dossiering me, but going down a checklist. You know what I mean? So he started talking about oh, I don't remember how we got onto it, but people on the political spectrum, they're all one side or the other, and I just think that everybody's point, blah blah blah. So he was very middle of the road. We're talking about finances or something like that. He's a mortgage broker. Ugh. Seriously, I don't get enough of that, right? So I think it came from the idea of fiscal policy and democracy, capitalism and democracy. So anyway, and if you've ever watched me talk about my political opinions, you know that I'm pretty far left. I work as hard as I can on keeping an open mind, but there are just some things that non-negotiable. The planet. It's dying. There's a mass extinction, and one side is trying to pass legislation so that stops, and the other side is trying to pass legislation so people can do whatever they want and give all the greenhouse gases they want, and no one can do anything about it. But we all live on the planet, and they're the ones who are going to be safe because they're the rich ones. Got it. Sorry, not my cup of tea. And I will be vocal about it, it'd be one thing if it was oh, I like blue jeans, I like black jeans, whatever. But when you're affecting billions of people's lives, I get a little more involved. Anyway, so, when I'm talking about talking to someone who has a difference of opinion than me, than I do, yeah, a different opinion than I, I'm very cautious, I breathe deeply, and I'm very aware of the urges as they come up. And I try and relax and release through them, because the only way to go about solving anything is to have open communication, and you can't have open communication when you shut someone down. So, but then I make my case. So anyway, we're having this conversation. That got off topic. We're having this conversation. It was fine. It was fun. Whatever. And like thinking back, like I noticed he didn't let me do a lot of the talking. Certainly some of it. Yes, I mean, I was able to express my opinions, but anyway, I don't know. So towards the end, he's like, oh, I might have my brother who lives in Boston. I'm going to come visit at some point. Let's get together. And I was like, yeah, sure. We'll get together, have a drink. And he's like, okay. I was like, and he started talking a little bit more romantically. And I'm like, well, we can have a friendship. Like, at the very least, we can have a friendship. There's a nice synergy here. We'll chat. He's like, okay, you're very pretty. I'm like, thanks. But see, here's the thing. I'm not like Banks. I'm like, thank you. Like, oh my God. Not that bad, but, I get thrown off. All of this stuff throws me off. I don't know how to handle it, because I've got the programmed reaction that I have, which is like, number one, wanting to be wanted. Being wanted is nice, it feels good. But then there's this other thing that kicks in, right? The persistence thing. I told him again, friendship. And he's like, okay, well, when I come up there, we'll have to get together. I was like, yeah. And he's like, my goal when I come up there is to make out with you. And I was like, okay. I don't know what to do with those things. So I kind of just let them slide. You know what I mean? I don't know what to say to that. So I'm going to pretend it didn't just happen. We're kind of laughed at it because it's like, oh, that's funny. But got off the phone and I was like, some of the, he's an attractive guy, right? And he was intense. And when someone looks at you that way and you get that energy from them, especially when you haven't for a while, things happen bodily. Things happen. Bodily reactions happen. They happen. And my mind goes with those rather than with logic. So I was like, look at the way he's looking at me. Like he wants to make out with me. But it's like, okay. And I thought that was funny. I was like, that's funny. So I don't have a lot of people to talk to in my life right now. It's probably why I do so many of these. But I texted one of my friends, Robin, who you guys meet sometimes because she comes on the show sometimes. And I was texting her, right? So you boil it down. You boil the conversation down. And as I'm doing that, she's like, so you said you're only there for friendship. You're only interested in friendship. And he still kept going with, relationship stuff. How long was your relationship? Why did it blah, 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 right? And I'm like, yeah, but he didn't do it in a bad way. He was being nice. And she's like, and so I kept talking about it or kept texting about it. And as I texted about it, it was like, I see what she's saying. And she's like, this is the universe testing you, and I was like, yeah, I see that. And she's like, you see that, right? And I'm like, yeah, I do. I do. I don't like it, but I do. Like, look, she's like, that's toxic masculinity, and he's got his wounding, but he is not respecting your boundaries. Like, you set your boundaries clearly, and he is clearly not. You are both saying two different things. You are saying this is my line, and he's saying I'm going to cross that line. So I'm like, God damn it, but I went through like this emotional thing about it, not like super emotional, but like this back and forth, because there's still this thing in my mind, which is what was always there. Like, well, okay, well, if he's showing a little bit of bad behavior, maybe he didn't mean to, right? Maybe he didn't mean it. Maybe he doesn't realize that that's what he's doing. Maybe he's a nice guy and he just, whatever. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he's a nice guy. It doesn't matter if he didn't mean to do it. Like, I set clear boundaries, and he was like, I'm not respecting them. And when I come up there and see you, I am telling you right now, my goal is to push you past your boundaries. So, there's also like, oh, I would love it if, we could start texting and like talking more. And I was like, well, yeah, as friends. I was like, okay, well, anytime, like in the middle of the night. And I was like, yeah, so I have to go. I was just like, well, yeah, this has been a great conversation. I have a lot of work to do though. And, we were wrapping up anyway, but it's like, there's this intensity, this, masculinity that I am drawn to. Like, let's be honest, right? Like, I'm a feminine person. We all have masculine energy. I certainly do. And I've seen it, and I know where it is, and that's great. Like, I have a balance. But on the whole, I lean towards the feminine energy. And when I experience, like, overwhelming masculine energy like that, I get turned on. Like, it's a thing. It is a thing. And I guess it's my desire to be liked, right? My desire to be wanted, and feeling like, okay, well, if he wants me and I don't, I don't want him, and I'm not intending to do anything with him, then I have the power, so I'm safe. It's like, yeah, it's not good enough, because you don't know what's going to happen. Like, we've been in situations before, Jennifer, and those did not work out well. And you feel, like you look back, I look back at the behavior that I excused, and the results of that allowance. It's like, oh, don't want that to happen again. Yeah, that's not good. So now this dude's in front of me, very masculine, very assertive, very attractive, and seemingly nice, but at the same time, clearly stating, after I have clearly stated boundaries, clearly stating that he intends to push past those boundaries and not respect them. So now, it's test, right? It's just as Robin said, it's a test. It doesn't matter that he's attractive. It doesn't matter that I'm, turned on, right? It doesn't matter. I'm not getting into a relationship anyway. I'm not saying this like I'm deciding whether or not to pursue anything romantic, because that's just off the table. But I'm also saying, like, I allow a lot of behavior. I did allow a lot of behavior that shouldn't have been allowed, and it affected the course of my life many times. And also in the guise or the idea of being nice. Like, I don't want to, oh, well, it's mean to hurt someone's feelings, so I've got that thing going, right? And I see that too. I can see that. This is good. This is good stuff. Although there's still this part of me that's like, I mean, maybe that's not what's happening. It's like, no, pretty clear. Pretty clear. So, yeah. So, I don't plan on getting in touch with him. And I'm just not sure what to do when he gets in touch with me. Because while I really do not believe in ghosting, no, I don't believe in ghosting. Something has to be said. But at the same time, like, we've known each other for a day. We've had like 2 conversations. It's not like I owe him, or there's some sort of, any sort of like indebtedness or whatever, you know what I mean? There's nothing there that I owe him. Except, general courtesy and respect, which I insist on, whether or not someone treats me with respect. So it's just like, at what point, and my mind starts going, right? Like, I can see it, I can hear it, I can see it. It starts going like, well, like, how much do you say? What do you say? Like, and there's part of me that's like, well, give him a chance to speak, see what he says. He might have a, whatever. There might be a reason for him to completely trample my boundaries. Who knows? He might just not know he's doing it, and then if I tell him, he won't. That sounds so ridiculous, like saying it out loud, like, but that's how I felt a lot of times, right? Like, well, if I tell him that he's not behaving well, and he acknowledges it, and wants to, I've done this so many, wow, yep, I've done this so many times. Wow. Yep. If he acknowledges it, and he, either apologizes for it, or, says like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that, that's not how I really am, and, I promise to respect your boundaries, or whatever. But, okay. That's just not, this is good to talk this out, because this is like, yeah. This is a test, and that part of me that's still doing that thing, right? That like damsel thing. Like, oh, he's so big and strong. Right? Like, God, like, what is that, right? That part, I gotta just ignore that part. That part doesn't get a say. That part does not get a say in my actions anymore. So, recognizing the pattern. The way I did that, though, is I talked to a friend about it, right? And when you talk it out loud, like I've been doing right now, like talking about like allowing this behavior and excusing it, and then seeing like, yeah, that has gotten me into some trouble. It like trouble that not just momentary, like turned my life, put my life off a different course, on a different course, you know what I mean? Like, it made me not respect myself at all, like completely lost respect for myself in those situations. And I let them happen so often that like the sense of not respecting myself just grew and grew and grew. I mean, like, just this, yeah, the more I talk about it, the more I'm like, yeah. Doesn't matter that he's handsome. Does not matter if he's handsome and I like his masculine energy. That's not something that matters. What matters is the things he says and his intentions, right? Because right now we don't really have any actions. He's states away. And again, not in a place where I'd even conceive of a relationship. He doesn't seem to want that, though. I don't know. I don't know. All I'm saying is I see what's going on in my brain. I see it. And the reason I see it is because I talked to a friend about it. You know, because, this happened and it's so funny. But then you start talking about it and your friend's like, yeah, no, bad. It's like, toxic masculinity. Gotta be on the lookout for that shit, right? Okay, so that is what I wanted to share, that as you work on yourself, I mean, I've been in like a little hole for a long time. You know, there's the depression hole where I don't talk to anybody. And then, being in a great relationship, not really interacting anyway. And then it's been a year since then, and I've been working on a company. Like, I don't go out. I don't have a social life. I really don't. And I'm okay with that. That's what I need right now. I don't need distractions. Although it would be nice every once in a while to go out and have some fun. Like once a month, that'd be nice. The only time I really leave the house is to go for a walk. Anyway, or get some groceries. So that took me off topic. So, as I've grown emotionally and recognized things about myself and my patterns, having something like this introduced to me, it is a test, right? It is like a, have you figured this out? But my brain all the time, well, maybe that's not true. Maybe it's not true. Maybe you're wrong. Give him a chance. Like, no. No. So we're not listening to that part. We're listening to the part that's like an adult. The part that has gotten us through these difficult, challenging, but ultimately really amazing opportunities for growth. That's the part to listen to. And that part's like, yeah. So, having this sort of situation introduced to me, and honestly, the universe is incredible, really. It's like completely safe. Completely safe. Talking virtually. He lives states and states away. It's not like we're going to get together for, a coffee or something. It's just this interaction. And I'm already in a place right now where I'm not even thinking, like, I am thinking explicitly, I do not want any sort of involvement, right? That's not for me right now. And I'm not at all interested in it. So I have these buffers that the universe has set up. See, she's great. She really is. She's amazing. It's very interesting to watch this in my life. So she introduced this test to me, right? She's introducing this little tiny, I'm safe. I've got hundreds of miles, and the firm decision that nothing would ever happen anyway, but still lets me practice this recognizing patterns thing and choosing different actions thing, right? That's what we do. We recognize the patterns and then we choose different actions. So I'm pretty proud of myself for that. And that's pretty much it. I hope that was useful to you people out there. If you see negative patterns in your life that have really altered the course of your life, not for the better, like really in many cases, dictated the course of your life, it's good to recognize those and to change your reaction to them. Even though it's not easy, right? It's not your first reaction. It's not something you're going to want to do. But talk to friends. Talk to smart friends. Get some smart friends. Like seriously, get some smart friends, a happiness coach that is a friend, or whatever you have to do. Start hanging out with people who are more emotionally and spiritually evolved, so that they can kind of knock you on the head every once in a while. Because if I were on my own with this one, I'd have that feeling, because I did have that like but like something's wrong feeling, but I wouldn't have paid attention to it, and now I am, so that's a good thing. And that's what I encourage you all to do, and I am really actually quite grateful for the opportunity here to recognize my patterns, to be safe from myself. Universe isn't going to allow me to hurt myself here. She's done that a lot lately. Like a lot. She's like, okay, we're going to take this slow. Little by little, I'll help you get there. Thanks, universe. So, that's what's going on. That's what I'm doing. That's what I hope helps anybody out there who's working on themselves. Because again, you can change things. You can change the way you think. You can change the way that you react. You can change the way you react to your thoughts. You can change the way that you react to your emotions, and you can change your behavioral patterns. Those things are possible. I am doing them. And I am sharing it with you, and it's not always easy. In fact, it's not easy. In fact, it's challenging as hell sometimes, but ultimately very worth it. And I'm grateful to be, even at this advanced stage, I'm 20 years, I'm going to be like, what the hell was I talking about? But 20 years ago, I'm like, oh my God, that's old. Right? At least it's happening. At least I'm going through it, and changing. And my life is it's already so much better for it, even though I'm still in the situation physically and financially that I created for myself over, however many years of poor decision making. Which, by the way, it's one thing, people are like, take responsibility, and you absolutely 100% take responsibility for everything I've done and throughout my life. But, and I will say, this is an excuse, but it does help me move past those things, chemical imbalances, and a lot of emotional baggage, and a lot of not knowing how to handle things that I can't blame myself for. And that was the name of the game before, right? Blame and punishment. So I'm not doing that anymore, and that's a positive thing. Anyway, that's what I have to say. I'm going to just talk about how grateful I am. Look how beautiful this is. Oh, I'm grateful for this too. Look at this. I have it here. So I'm going to continue to allow the universe to do as she wants, because it's clearly, excuse me, a little spittle there, clearly better than anything I could have come up with. Continue to unfold my life according to your will and not my low self-worth. So that's a good prayer to pray, guys. Anyway, I am going to conclude now, because I'm grateful. I am very grateful for these challenges, for the growth, for the friends, the support system, and ultimately how the universe works in the world, despite any challenges that I might not like. Doesn't matter if I like them or if I don't. So I'm grateful for all that stuff. Which leads me to tell you, or to remind you, that you can always choose to have a grateful day.